Alright, another match on Forest Colony. And spawning in the lower side, we do have Clan Smoke Jaguar with 228th is spawning upper side by Radio Tower, and we will be seeing those movements in just a second. See a lot of Dragon Slayers and Victors from both teams. Looks like Smoke Jag is moving up towards the ridge area, towards Arch.
So Smoke Jazz is going with 4 Dragon Slayers, 4 Shadows, and 4 Spiders. Spiders will create a little bit of lag shield, perhaps. A little bit hard to kill, but they are moving up really aggressively. They want to take this fight. It seems to be pretty immediate.
Yeah, it looks like they're moving fairly quickly. I thought they would have maybe held off a little bit. They might just be trying to gain quick ground to see where their opponent is at. 228, it looks like, has taken the radio tower and are holding there. They have brought Spiders, and looks like
228 has brought, it is 2 Jenners, 3 Shadowhawks, and 4 Shadowhawks, sorry. 5 Dragon Slayers, so a very heavy loadout, whereas Smoke Jaguars is actually slightly heavier, even as they have the 5 Victors, the 4 Shadowhawks, and the 3 Spiders. The Spiders look like they have brought some sort of ER large laser just for the poke. They're rotating out in the water just to get a few angles. However, at this range, they've got to be shooting 1100 meters, and that's going to be...
It's going to be minimum damage, but they're going to be looking to get
damage.
their arty strikes on it.
Yeah, arty strikes are going to play a huge part in this battle, and you already see that red smoke everywhere. These are the 2 of the teams that you're going to see using just a ton of arty. I guarantee almost every player on both sides has 2 airstrike or two air arty. So
Smoke Jaguar, initially it looked like they were going to push up really fast and aggressive, but they actually stopped in the early setup area, but they spread out. So they are sitting back from their base, fairly spread out with their jump snipers, and they're just going to take shots here and trade arties and try to weaken each other over time.
Yep, and the thing to note is that that ridge is a very enclosed area, so you have to be very careful watching for those air arty, because they can catch more than one mech, whereas the way that Smoke Jag is spread out, they're actually negating that probably max of 1 to 2 mechs that will take damage at a time. From
Thus far, you really have no significant damage. Only a panic button's the lowest, 85%.
And that phone call signalizes the giant airstrike that's called in by the devs. No, I'm just kidding. So we see just some trading going back and forth right now. Each team is trying to use their long-range weapons to get good picks on the other. So I think we'll probably see both teams do this for a little while until one either feels that they have a big enough advantage that they're taking too much damage and need to relocate.
One thing to note is that it looks like the Shadowhawks for Clan Smoke Jaguar actually bring 2 PPCs and 3 streaks. So those are going to be more of a light hunting loadout with some marksmanship capability, rather than a full sniper or a full brawl. And normally what you would see out of a snipey Shadowhawk would be a single PPC, or ER PPC even, and 2 AC5s. And so I don't know how effective this is going to be, because 220 has actually only brought 2 Jenners, so those streaks for the most part aren't going to get a lot of work done.
And that means that those mechs, those Shadowhawks, if it does come down to a brawl, with only 2 PPCs and 3 streaks, if you're targeting anything but a light mech, you're not doing that much damage, because if they're smart enough and they see your loadout, they'll be engaging close with you, under 90, so that those PPCs you have aren't doing damage, which basically will negate those Shadowhawks from a brawl.
So one advantage the Smoke Jaguar is going to have in the sit back and snipe is with the Spiders. If they get around their heavies, they're going to provide some ECM coverage. I haven't been able to tell, because we had those 3 Spiders out by the boat. I don't know if they switched back at all towards the snipers.
They are still just floating out in the water trying to get angles. It does look like 228 has brought a Gauss rifle, an ER PPC, and a PPC on their Dragon Slayers. So that's going to have a bit more range than anything we're seeing from the Smokejag team. And if they can avoid strikes and keep getting shots at this extreme range, those ER PPCs and Gauss should be able to stack up some advantage for a later push.
Yep. They're definitely trying to go for, it looks like at least that they're trying to go for the engagement distance advantage. They're not trying to play a quick brawl or anything like that. They're just trying to whittle down their opponent and keep constant damage up on them. Doesn't look like positions have shifted that much. 228 is still holding pretty heavily to Radio Tower. They've got a lot of their mechs in the back trying to avoid unfriendly lines, although it does look like we have a couple mechs, a few Dragon Slayers I see maybe moving up from Smokejag nearer to Arch. But that just could be a trick of my eyes.
Out to try and get... Oh, no, you are
right.
They
now,
are
Smoke Jaguar is ahead.
up.
In terms of damage,
they're definitely ahead, and that's on the back of their airstrikes. It looks like both Panic Button and Grand Menace from 228 have eaten 1 or 2 air and arty strikes apiece. Panic Buttons was actually very early in the game. It dropped them down 15%. And while that damage is spread and nothing is crit, it's still just a bit chipping away at you.
On the Smoke Jag side, kind of notices at 84%, and Trey O'Neill is at 84%, so they've also taken some damage. But you never know on those percentages just how damaged they are. It could be their left side arm or just spread out all across the mech. So.
And one thing that I have noticed, and I don't know if that's completely accurate, is that it looked like there have been far more air arty going down on 228 than there have been on Smokejag. So 228 may be holding back their arties in case of that push, or to try and wait for just better shots. But right now 228 is fairly clustered, so it makes sense that Smokejag would be dropping that many.
228 is actually trying to get shots on those spiders in water, and it's quite a long range, and they've got a couple hits, but nothing super effective at the moment. The lowest is Nuclear Weapon Spider, and he's at 90%, and it's just a single CT hit.
Yeah, and I think what we'll see is, I think that they're just going to be picking for a while. I honestly don't expect either team to make a move very quick here. We see, looks like Edmeister is jumping up on top of the hill, but other than that, no significant movement from either team.
Now, there is still 12 minutes remaining, and like you said, it looks like CSJ are the ones who've been using more strikes. So if they start running out of strikes, and that sort of momentum is expended, do you think that 228's ERPPC and Gauss is going to start having more of an impact and swing the trade back their way?
Yeah, it depends on... I haven't been able to tell how much of this damage is from air arty. If most of this damage is in fact from air arty, and they're not really getting that very good shots in, I think that, yes, we could see those PPCs and Gauss rifles do quite a bit of damage. But at this point, it's hard for me to tell who's gaining the upper hand. It does look like damage numbers, with the exception of Grand Menace, are somewhat stabilizing for both teams. A couple of mechs dropping down into the 80s, but I'm not sure... we don't see any real movement, which is interesting. I think we'll probably have another game, just like we had last time, where you won't see a push until near the end, if at all. Both of these teams really want to win.
I can pretty much confirm just by going into their loadouts here that all of the damage has been from air arty, and it is spread over the damage to 228's mechs. So the damage going the other way to CSJ is also mostly strikes, but there are some that have taken direct fire.
And I guess there's only so much we can really say about this situation. Neither team... This is an established strategy. The problem with pushing in a situation or a game like this is that you expose yourself to a lot of fire, which can be really, really detrimental, and it can actually end a game for you completely. Because if you try and get that push in and they get a good air RD and enough shots on you, it doesn't matter if you have a brawling deck, you're just out. So this is the safest strategy to use, and that's why you see these two teams playing it, because they don't want to rely at all on luck. They want to make it about skill, and so I think that's why we're seeing such a passive style. They want to make sure that they're getting the shots that count and just playing it safe.
Now, how would this play out if it was a different game mode, like say Assault or Conquest?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
How would it play out if it was Assault or Conquest instead of Skirmish on this map?
So on this map, Assault would be really different because of base turrets. Base turrets are actually a huge deal, but it's still sort of the same jump sniping war. There's no real, necessarily objective that you can pressure now that we have base turrets. Lights can't sneak in for a cap and try and draw you back and stuff like that. So it'd probably be a very similar fight. You might see light mechs with, large lasers dodging into the range of the turrets to pop them up, and then sitting behind cover while their teammates focus them down just to try and go for that base cap. On Conquest, it would obviously be a completely different match, because in that case you have a constant tug of war over the points. You have the points are spread out fairly evenly, with Theta being in the middle, which is obviously the fairly big contest point. So that involves a lot more shifting and moving, where you see speed come into play a lot more, because you have to constantly be fighting for those points and making sure that you're not going to get capped out and lose just because you've been focusing on the fight. So right now it looks like the spiders are still taking pokes, a little bit of damage on them, but not a ton. It looks like a fairly stable game. We've got about 8 minutes remaining, and yeah, both teams seem to just be poking at each other. So Siri, do you think that there will be... Do you think that we'll see this go to a tie and be replayed, or do you think we'll see one team go for a push?
I think that 228 may think about doing a push on the spiders in the water. They are actually getting quite banged up. Nuke and Kised, they're both down to 84%. In Nuke's case, his right leg has about 20% armor remaining, so does the CT, and the Kised is not that much better off. He has taken leg damage as well. So they're actually on even terms, and if it goes to a light fight. 228 has 2 Jenners and a Spider to the 3 Spiders for CSJ, so they could end up swinging those down and trying to pick off these Spiders, especially if you see right here, Kazed's Spider 5D, he's getting really deep.
Yeah, and especially if those Jenners are
actually,
standard
here we go,
builds.
Queenblade, Titan, and Tricepticon,
Here's the move.
are just moving down and trying to catch him out.
He's trying to run away.
They do see this coming, and they do see this coming, and they are trying to back off.
Let's see if they push their luck and actually try and go for it.
228 is not going to commit in with their lights.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, this is... Neither of these teams wants to lose. They're all about playing it safe. We see an RD go down. I believe that was from Smoke Jag, just to try and prevent the lights from moving in even further.
And after that little scare, the Spiders have moved all the way back to boat and are playing it super safe again. I do feel like 228, if they had committed in there, they would have gotten the better of it, especially if they could have sent some of their Shadowhawks down. The rest of CSJ was in no position to support until the Spiders got at least back to boat, and that would have been a 600-700 meter run for them.
Yeah, but
meanwhile,
it looks
we
like...
have just under 6 minutes left in the match. Damage from strikes that seem to stabilize. Both teams are probably running low on them, and there isn't a decisive advantage on the heavy side. I'd say there's actually a slight advantage to CSJ just from the strike placement going into comms tower being much more grouped, and most of the assaults and mediums are down to about the 80%, 85% area.
The lights from 228 do appear to be still out by the water. It's interesting that we don't see... Traditionally, we've seen a push come from the team that isn't holding radio tower, so it'll be interesting to see if that happens. Looks like both teams are still just content to wait. It doesn't seem like anybody's in a rush to charge at the other team. 228 is still holding. Their lights are still down by the water, making sure that those spiders don't get too out of place again. And SmokeJag is holding along this ridge, being very conservative, making sure that they don't take any needless damage.
If you're going to make a move in most games and on this sort of map, you normally do it around 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes left. That gives you enough time to get in there and actually fight it out with the advantage, rather than like on our last match where the game ends in the very opening stage of the push. And so I expect if we're going to see any movement, it should be in about the next minute.
Yep, I agree. I think both of these teams, if they do make a push, they'll want it to be a good enough fight where they'll have time to make some moves and try and go for good picks and a good fight. I don't think they'll just try and end it early. And we see the light mechs. It does look like the lights from SmokeJag are falling back a little bit, trying to regain their position with the main team. So we may be seeing that regroup that we've been talking about this whole time. Might be a push, or this could go for a tie.
I feel like at this point, 228 has actually taken a bit more damage than they should have. Grand Menace is down to 71%, and that has actually not been from strikes for that last 10 to 15%. That's just been from direct fire from the spiders. So CSJ should actually feel pretty comfortable here, and if they want to push, they definitely can. On the other hand, 228 being that banged up, now they're going to be in the more passive state.
I agree, and we still don't see significant movement from either team. This may be a tie. I think both of these teams are in a place where they would rather play this whole thing again and maybe hope for the luck of Air Arty rather than risk their chances with a push.
That being the case, I believe the procedure for that is that they switch sides and then redrop. Given what they've seen here, do they keep the same drop decks? Do they change up their strategy? Or, like you said, do they just play the exact same style and go for the RDR?
You know, honestly, I don't know. I think that these might be the builds that they're comfortable with. So you may, in fact, see them just redrop with the exact same mechs and just try and go for a different side. But that does lose somewhat of an element of surprise if either team was hoping to catch their opponent off guard.
Well, now with about a minute and a half left, it looks like both teams have started burning the strikes they had in reserve, just in case of a push, and a couple more rolling out. Still no active movement. Oh. Saying that, it looks like CSJ is now moving up to the arches. They could be going for that last-minute desperation kill, the same as Black Suns did last match. Their entire team is swinging to the right, into arch, towards Pride Hill. Their spiders are with them, giving them ECM, making sure they're not getting picked off in the water, and...
The lights from 228 are...
45...
they are back from the team. I don't know, I'm assuming that 228 has seen this coming, but we'll have to see how this brawl plays out.
35 seconds on the clock, and closing in at a vicious pace. These Victors and the Shadowhawks both go about 75 to 80, depending on how you fit them. The Victor is already safe, XL safe. And man, some good strikes going down into Mine Colony here, landing all over the 228th mechs. 228th is on the back foot, 10 seconds left, trying not to die. CSJ pushing in full.
Oh, we're gonna see a kill?
3. Factopus goes down, and he was actually a Victor for CSJ, so that one last kill gives the match the 228th.
Wow, nail biter. That was I have to actually give props in this case to SmokeJag. They wanted to win and they went for it, and so they did. And unfortunately, Factopus went down right in the last couple seconds there. That's game. So 228 will move on with a 1-kill game.